Rightio. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first Solopreneur Summit. And we are absolutely delighted that you've taken the time to come and spend this with us because we know that your time is actually the most important thing that you've got. You can't replace it. Every minute counts. And we love that you have decided to join us and spend this time with us today. So we're going to make every minute count here. It's going to be 2 hours. There's 5 speakers. We're all going to be doing a little 20 minutes or a little bit more maybe on what we do. And then there'll be a Q&A session at the end. And so if you've got any questions, please write them down. You can pop them in the chat as we go along. There is going to be an interaction prize today. So I have an Amazon voucher here. So for people who like and comment and provide value for each other, then I'm going to be sending you an Amazon voucher. Um, Anyone who's seen me present before will know that one of my favorite saying is it's what's caught, not what's taught. And so we're going to go through an awful lot of things here, but if you're interacting in the chat, then you're going to learn things from each other. And that's the joy of being in a room with people, that we can all learn from each other. So please do pop things in the chat, and we could start off now by just letting us know who you are and where you're from, because there's a lots of names here that I don't know, and just so people know. So just let us know who you are and just a little bit about yourselves in the chat. And then if you can get a chance to try and change your handle on your screen here, to, if you've got Instagram, put your Instagram handle there, or if you've got LinkedIn, put your LinkedIn handle there. And then if there's somebody who you think is quite interesting, then you've got their details there so you can connect with them outside the room. So we're going to share our connections with you. So I just want to be clear whilst you're changing the name. If you don't change your name, I don't know where to send this to. So make sure you change your name, please. Um, so let me clear, this is not going to be death by PowerPoint. There's an awful lot of interaction here. So make sure you've got your pens out and your paper. I've sat through the rehearsals for this, and I'm still writing notes every time that I watch. You know, it's really is going to be action packed. And I want you to think about what you want to get from this. So as you listen to each speaker, think, okay, that's useful, but you've got to make sure that you actually implement what you learn. It's so easy to go on events and spend your time doing these things and thinking, oh, I've shown up, I'm going to get the value from this, but you actually need to implement what you've learned. And even if you implement just one thing from today, you'll get value for time that you've been here. So if everybody had the PDF attached to the emails, if not, I'm going to pop a link into the chat there. Whilst you're uploading that one, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me. So I'm Mary Phillips. I'm a chiropractor. I spent over 20 years running businesses. I've got a very busy chiropractic clinic. I've had a couple of those. I've also had a coffee business. I've also owned a chip shop. And I coach basically solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, clinicians. That's what I spend most of my time doing now, as well as managing the clinical side. So I know what it's like to juggle business and life. I also know what happens when you don't pause to reflect and get clear and to hold yourself accountable. And especially if you work on your own, or if you're leading a business, your own business, often the support's not here. So this is here for you to get as much information as possible and learn from each other. So my role today isn't really to share my ideas, but to give you tools that you can take away to grow and focus. So without further ado, I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about what I'm doing here, and then we're going to get started. So I'm towards the end of the summit, to help you stay accountable, I'm going to be running something called the End of Year Sprint, and it's a focused accountability container, and it's designed to help you finish the year strong. And it's really simple. It's only 3 months long, but I'll talk a bit more about that later. But has anybody here used the Wheel of Life before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you know what to expect with this exercise. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show the wheel up here. But what you're going to need to do is, if you've got a pen, if you don't haven't printed out the PDF or you're not on a tablet, you can just write down the numbers. But I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and these questions here, what they're going to do is help you reflect on what you can do, what you can improve on, but also hopefully it will help you get the most out of today. So I'm just going to share this one here. Not that one. Stop sharing. Okay, so if you can put in the chat if you've got your one down, someone's just sent me a message saying they're just downloading it now. Could I wait? So just say yes if you've got it. Okay. Sorry, I'm just getting the people in from the waiting room. Okay, so number one at the top here, we have, sorry, just bear with me. Claire, could you share your wheel here, please? Perfect. Okay, so what we've got here is the wheel. And the top here, we're going to talk about mindset to start with. And so we want to start empowering your mindset. So what we want to do is think about how positively your thoughts and mindsets support your confidence and actions and results in business work. So from naught, going from naught for 10, so naught's in the middle, 10's on the outside. How positively do your thoughts and mindset support your confidence, actions, and results in business work? In business and work. So naught being the most negative, 10 being the most consistently powerful and empowering. So you can pop that down there or you can pop it in the chat. Naught from 10. The second one here is about your identity. How aware are you of the I am statements you use about yourself? I am bad at this. I am good at this. How conscious are you of using that statement I am in your life? So not going from unaware to 10 being highly conscious and empowering. And if you just pop in the chat when you've done that, then I know that that stuff's been done there. Brilliant. Keep going. Now, this one is going to be about your future self. So, how closely do your daily choices and actions align with a future version of the person who you want to become? Do you have habits that stack you up to be the best possible person? Or do you know that you're misaligned, that you're not actually living your life congruently? So, naught is misaligned, 10 is fully aligned and consistent. The next one round, we've got self compassion. How much self compassion and kindness do you show yourself in business and life? Are you very critical? Do you put yourself down? Or are you consistently kind and compassionate the same way that most of us are with other people? Brilliant. Some good numbers there. Okay. So barriers. How free do you feel from barriers, internal or external, that stop you from reaching your potential? So for some people, that might be childcare. It might be a limitation of where you work. Not being stuck and blocked, and 10 being free and moving towards full potential. Whereabouts do you feel you are on that spectrum? Delivery. How confident are you in your ability to deliver what your business promises? So if you promise excellent healthcare, if you promise a course that's going to be, you're going to deliver a course, are you proud of that? Are you very confident that you can deliver everything consistently with excellence? Or are you full of doubt? Do you have doubt? So naught would be doubt, 10 would be highly confident and deliver with excellence. I've got some good numbers here. Okay. Clarity. How clear are you on the exact next action steps that you need to move your business forwards? So do you know what you need to do in order to push that needle? Is it zero? So you're lost, you're overwhelmed, you're not really sure at all what to do. Or maybe you're 10, you're crystal clear, you're focused, you know exactly what direction you're going into, and you are going to do it. Next one, brand clarity. How clear and confident are you that you know your brand message and use them consistently across everything you put out? Do people know that it's you when you're putting yourself out there? And if you're not putting yourself out there, we've got a great talk for you later. So, naught being no clarity, 10 being crystal clear and fully consistent. And then PR decisions here. How confident are you in knowing which PR opportunities to pursue and which to leave? So, how confident are you in knowing which PR opportunities to pursue and which to leave? Running a business nowadays, we regularly get emails of people, asking us to take part in their events, and they're wanting us to pay to go take part of their events. So, where are you? Are you guessing it, or do you know exactly what you're doing? Have you got that strategy? And number 10. How clearly can you identify the single biggest thing that's holding you back right now in business and in life? Because they're not mutually exclusive. So, how clearly can you identify the single biggest thing holding you back right now in business or life? So, 0 is no idea, 10 is crystal clear awareness of what it is. Okay. So, I want you to have a look at those numbers, or if you've put a wheel up there on your wheel, I want you to see those numbers and see how balanced those numbers are. Are they all the same? You've got sixes and sevens, eights, nines, or have you got one that's particularly misaligned down there? A wonky wheel, yes. So when a wheel's wonky, it's very hard to push. So the aim is to have this wheel as close to the 10, as close to the outside as possible, without any wonkiness there. So we want to get that aligned. So if you could just put a circle or just mark the one that is the biggest issue for you right now, what's the lowest number? That's something I want you to bear in mind going through the next 4 speakers. Okay, and if you've got any questions, just put them in the chat. We're writing them down, so at the end when we come to Q&As, we can work through them. So that's me just setting the scene. The next up, we've got Helen McLean. She's wonderful, and she's going to be talking to you about mindset. All these ladies have got a phenomenal experience in what they do. I'm the only chiropractor here, so you're learning from lots of different people. So Helen, if you're ready, it's going to be over to you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Hopefully you can all hear me. Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, excellent. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for all coming here today. Um, it's really important, the exercise that Mary did, to really get some clarity on kind of where we are in life, get that kind of viewpoint. So today, I'm Helen McLean, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here today. And this really wonderful opportunity to present alongside some 4 other fantastic ladies who are going to bring you so much information today. And also, thank you all for joining and spending time with us. As Mary said, time is our most valuable asset, and I really appreciate you coming and spending time with us today. So, as Mary said, any questions, just put them in the chat and we'll address them later. So I've got a little question for you to start off. It says, if it will let me move. Technical hitch, it's not letting me. Okay. Yeah, let's try that one. Right. What's your biggest inner challenge? So, looking at yourself, what's your biggest inner challenge that you are facing right now? So, I'm not necessarily talking about maybe a practical thing, a technical thing, or maybe it will because it's the underlying block or stop that you're getting. So, what's stopping or preventing you? Cause and that could be anything. Could be anything like you're not feeling good enough, you are not worthy of success, or what you're receiving. Maybe you feel that you're over procrastinating, have self-sabotage, or maybe you've got fear of visibility, fear of failure, fear of success, or maybe you're having behaviors or maybe addictions that are really now starting to bite and you're just not happy with them. Or maybe you've got money blocks. So who am I and why am I talking to you about this? So first of all, I'm the rapid transformational therapist. It does what it says on the tin. It's rapid, it changes you, and I'm a therapist. But so this is not about long-term, multiple decades of talking about something you don't want. This gets the job done and it gets it done quickly and permanently. So just a little background, I come from over 25 years in the corporate ladder, very high budgets, very, very demanding, time-driven, highly successful work that I had to do there. But what I found was, and I'm sure you all do, that we can deal with those soft skills, we can deal with those practical skills. But I was also finding people had real blocks. We couldn't get past them and we didn't really know why, we couldn't do anything about them. So these like diamonds that we couldn't actually move forward with, or they were really stuck in really achieving their full potential. So I got out of pharma, I retrained, and I now do this multimodal therapy that really gets to that root cause of the issues and we remove them, we get rid of them. And it's the best thing I ever did. And I'm absolutely, absolutely overjoyed that I did it because I've not looked back. I absolutely adore doing this work, enabling people to really release what's holding them back, getting in their way, and enabling them to get on with living their best life. So today will be a little bit of a skip through, and I do apologize if I talk at 100 miles an hour. I'm sorry, I've got a lot to talk about, and I'm sorry if it just sort of bombards you all. But today we're just going to do a very brief overview of quite a few things. So first of all, the rules of the mind. There are many, I'm just going to touch on a few. What are limiting beliefs and fears, and how do they show up for you? And also some practical strategies to help you move forward and some daily practices to help you really start to understand and get hold of your brain. Because your brain is your most important tool. And yet we're never taught how to manage it. We're never taught how to be. We're never taught how to really understand what goes on. And most importantly, we often carry that thing forever. I deal with people who've had these limiting issues or things that really get in their way for decades, like a heavy rucksack that is just getting in their way. We can literally be ruled by it, ruled by our brain with how we think and feel and act. Because remember, your brain does and controls everything. It controls what you do, it controls what you think, it controls how you act, and it can get in the way or it can help you. So, little touch on some of the rules of the mind. Right, first of all, headline. You don't have to believe everything you think. Now, just so you know, a thought is just a thought. They pop into our head. We have many different reasons for why they appear, but they are just a thought. We have between 40 to 70,000 a day. And if you're an overthinker, you're on the top end of that. And a thought is a constant like narrative in your head. It affects what you do because a thought becomes a feeling. A feeling becomes an action, and an action over time becomes what you feel you are. Because the brain has to be right, it will then, once you hold that, whatever you believe or whatever you're feeling or the fear, whatever it is, it will keep presenting to you things to confirm and to agree with that. It doesn't have to be right or wrong or true or false. It doesn't care. It will just support that with words, memories, feelings, anything to entrench it deeper into who you are. Your mind responds to words and pictures, those emotions, those things. If it matters, it starts to lay it down. And of course, the more we practice it, the more we refresh it, the more that becomes deeper into our brain and our wiring, and it becomes much more able to be triggered by multiple different things, so we get more of it. Basic thing, and we've all experienced this, when there's a conflict between emotion and logic, unfortunately, emotion will always win. If we look at things like fears, we can tell people with a fear of flying that planes go in the sky and aerodynamics and physics and all the wonderfulness that gets off the ground. People know that they don't just drop out of the sky, that thousands of planes take off and land safely, then why are you still scared? Because emotion behind it, the reason behind it, is usually actually a fear of being out of control. So we want to get to that. We want to sort out what it is behind the thing that's causing it. And over time, we make our beliefs, and our beliefs make us, because we're constantly refreshing, reviewing, reassociating what it is that's coming to us, and where they're becoming part of our behaviors. So what are beliefs? Beliefs are essentially a thought you keep on thinking. From the moment you have conscious thought, you're creating the world around you. You're receiving everything from different areas, as well as what it means to you. You can be given them. We're getting them from our environment, from people that are coming to us and telling us stuff, but also how do we feel about it? Because ultimately, it's not what happens to you, it's how you perceive it. And we are challenging them as we go through life, but there are some that persist. And we keep having them, and they keep there, and they get deeper and deeper and come up and go away and pop up. And they can be coming up in so many different environments. They sit in our subconscious, and they actually completely dictate how we live and feel and perceive. So just do a little exercise for me now. We're all on mute, so hopefully we're all on mute. And I just want you to say these words to yourself out loud. Now, obviously, if that's not appropriate, please don't do it. So you're all on mute. So just say to yourself a minute. I'm useless. I'm stupid. I'm an idiot. I'm not enough. I'm hopeless. I'm terrible. I'm awful. I can't learn. Just sit and see, how does that feel? Now, say, I'm amazing. I'm wonderful. I'm awesome. I'm fantastic. I'm capable. I can do anything. I'm creating my life. And just see how that feels. Now, what's changed? Nothing. Just what you've said to yourself. Remember, you're the only one who's listening to what you're saying to yourself. And even just that thought can immediately create an emotion, especially if any of those really resonated with you. And that's then entrenches more about how we feel and how we're then showing up in life. So your words really make an impact. And I know that Fiona is going to touch on this later as well. So just some real sort of beliefs that we can hold. Again, we're not feeling good enough, not worthy of receiving. Who am I to charge these prices? I don't deserve success. We can feel we don't ever have enough experience. So we're constantly doing another course, but we're never putting it into practice. Maybe we feel we can't learn. Maybe we've been told once in our life that we can't do something. So it's very common that we have these things, that maybe we're not good at school, or we have that everybody else can do things we can't. And another great one of that is not feeling creative. We definitely have that kind of beaten out of us when we're a child. As soon as we go to school, when we're not doing the things quite how everyone seems to think we should. And it's very much a transaction. We've got to be good. So we hold these beliefs that we have to achieve something. We can also have very many beliefs that money is only, in the bad hands, that rich people are terrible, that success means I have to sacrifice what I do, or maybe there's just not enough to go around. It's a binary that I have it, you don't. It's a very transactional. And we can very much sit in these kind of money blocks and sit in a position which we don't ever get past. So just moving on to sort of fears. We're actually born with two fears: a fear of loud noises and a fear of being dropped. And everything else that we have in about the fear we're creating, which is actually a really good thing, because it means actually we can uncreate it. So if we have a fear of failure, we can start to perform very strange things. We can start to procrastinate, put off. We could start playing very small, in the sidelines. Maybe we're just not doing it. We're not producing it. We might be delaying launches or pushing out product or ideas. We may be not putting out the content that we want to. So remember, if we don't do it, we don't know. So of course that would either confirm to you that yes, you're rubbish, or my gosh, actually you might be quite good at it. And we don't want that. We don't want that conflict. We can avoid calculated risks, and we can also avoid, as I said before, putting ourselves forward for opportunities. We can self-sabotage, and we can get into that horrible overthinking doom train of overthinking where we just head on to more and more of what we believe that we can't do it. And a fear of failure is very much something that people experience different aspects of their life, and it really will prevent you moving forward. So how beliefs change our business reality. We're going to look at the business and what we're doing, So we can feel these beliefs that maybe we're not enough, we can't learn, that actually we're not worthy, we shouldn't be charging the prices or producing what we do. I mean, who are we? These lead to then this belief that maybe we start to really kind of compare ourselves to others. Maybe we've got this lot of internal judgment, lack of self-belief, lack of confidence, or maybe we feel that we're just these emotions we can then start to build within us, because remember, a thought creates an emotion. In fact, there's nothing you can do about that, but you can change your thoughts. And this emotion that's driven can often make us feel very fearful. We can feel very stuck. We can feel that there's too much to do, have that overwhelm of the things we need to do. And that creates then actions of maybe we are underpricing, we're over delivering, we're trying to do too much because maybe we feel like, who are we? So we've got to give and give and give. Maybe we're also avoiding visibility, genuinely playing small. And the result of that, if you can project that forward, of course, you'll just end up with resentment. You're burnt out, you maybe got a financial struggle because you're putting in the work, but you're not getting the financial benefit. You're limiting your growth because constantly you're just confirming absolutely what you believe. Because remember, these poor results that you'll get from that just confirms this cycle. The cycle that clearly your belief keeps moving to that thought, to emotion, and it goes on and on. Because the cycle just will repeat itself, and often in different guises as well, because it will add on, it will expand. But guess what? And I'm sorry to say this, if you don't address this, if you don't do anything about it, it's not going to miraculously just disappear. You do have to do something about it. Then the good thing is there's lots of things you can do. So we want to look at some quick, simple steps. Now, these are simple. Obviously, I'm a therapist, so we do a lot more than this, but this is a good kind of overview. So first of all, with regard to your brain, we want to catch and become aware of what it is that we're saying. What is that doom train of thought that we're on? What is it exactly are we saying? We can do this. It's actually very good to write this down because it gets it out of your head. You see it on the paper and you can actually start to step back from it, externalize yourself a bit more. Now, would you say those words? Would you say these things to your best friend? And if you did, how long would they be your best friend if you're telling them the things you're telling yourself? And more importantly, are you your biggest bully? Are you the one who's really bullying yourself? Are you the one who's making you feel these things? And if so, why? Why is that happening for you? So we want to get that awareness because that can also make us start to get some perspective. Now, we also want to be citing and collecting evidence in the contrary to it, because that also shows us that we have way more robustness, more ability, more grit, more everything that we are doubting within ourselves. Because also, guess what? You've survived 100% of everything you've been through. So you are capable, you are able, you do have it. Sometimes we just do have to scratch around a bit to find it. We want to get that pattern interruption. We want to catch and replace that limiting language. And I know Fiona's going to touch on this as well. So I'll let her go into this. But we want to really be making sure that we are changing this words. Remember, we hear everything we think and say. So we want to be really, and even in jest, it's still really important. Your brain is always listening. And we also want to get the belief testing. And again, action is the antidote to fear. We create the momentum. We get unstuck. We allow ourselves to move forward. You can't create anything from stuckness. It becomes very difficult. Your brain can't even come up with more ideas. You know yourself that if you're trying to do something, when you're in the flow, more ideas come to you, flow to you. So we do want to allow ourselves to start those processes. And again, start small. It's not about, doing massive things first off. It's about just moving. So I'm just going to give you some very sort of mind mastery techniques. Now, before you all roll your eyes and before you all go, Helen, come on, we are bombarded with all these things that we have to do. And we have to now get up at 2 a.m. and, ice bath and run 15 marathons. And we have to do all this stuff and meditate for 4 hours and God knows what else. This is about mastering your brain. This is not about all the other stuff. This is getting you control back of your mind. So first of all, what's your day? And remember, these things can literally take seconds. Just get some intention, get some understanding, know where you're going, get some clarity. It's really good to really know where you're going, what you're doing that day. But more also, visualization can be great when you're cleaning your teeth. Really visualize going through that day really easily and effortlessly, allowing yourself to move through it. Now, there is a reason why our elite athletes do visualization. It is real. We have many studies to confirm how effective and efficient it is. So get that visualization going. Know where you're heading. Know what you're doing. As I said before, get some thought awareness check-ins. Is that thought that's coming for you helping you or hindering you? Is it getting in your way? Is it stopping you, preventing you? Let's get some self-awareness in there. And you'll be doing that multiple times a day. It's not a one and done thing. Trust me. And I've been doing this for years. I still have to catch myself. In fact, I had a client the other day and they turned around and went, oh my God, I did it about 200 times today. This is obviously before we'd worked together, not after. But they literally, so we do have to be mindful that this is going on in our heads almost obliviously. Let's get some pattern reframe. Let's get some language reframe. Let's move away from I can't, I don't know, to yeah, I can, I get to, I choose to, I want to. Whatever it is, remember, we want to get that brain into that space where it's possible. And let's get some reality in here. Often we can go down that doom train of thought and catastrophize of everything we could possibly think of, and it's absolutely awful. Is it though? Is it really that bad? Are you actually going to die? Or is this just a problem you need to sort out? And you can do, because you can do anything. And at night, now, some people love journaling. It can be for everybody. It is a fantastic tool. There's a lot of science to go with it, to getting things out of your head, getting that perspective. And if anybody wants, I've got a very long list of different journal points that you can use. You can pick and choose the things that really work for you. But I would say, even if none of that really resonates with you, none of that is something that you want to do, just before you go to sleep, just ask yourself 3 questions. What am I grateful for today? And that can literally be that you're in bed and it's warm. It can literally be your heart is still beating and you've got another day. It doesn't have to be that you climbed Everest barefooted. It can literally be anything. But find what it is that you're grateful for. There's lots of scientific evidence to support this, how it also allows our brain to rewire overnight and look for more of the same. So as we all know, go to bed on an argument, we wake up refreshed or maybe have a different clarity. That's what our brain is doing overnight. It is getting that and allowing to bring us more of what we want. So obviously we're all doing this and we're all going to do this. So what do we get? Right, so we go from the limiting space of where we're feeling hesitant. We have to wait for everything to be perfect before we do anything. We're feeling overwhelmed. We may be stuck or stop, or we're taking everything personally if we get anything wrong. We're undercharging, overworking. We don't move forward. We're not taking opportunities. We're playing in the sidelines. And then we learn to burn out, resentful, wondering what ifs, what could I do? And we move into this confident space of learning, allowing, growing, seeing feedback in what we're gathering information, growing, pricing correctly, confidently, building a sustainable business, allowing challenges and moving forward, feeling much better and actually creating the life and the reason why pretty much all of us are doing what we're doing. So remember, your beliefs shape you, so choose wisely. So beyond today, Remember that your mind is your most powerful tool. You can change. It is possible. You're not set. If you want to change, you can change. And you can change how your brain and you work together. Remember, limiting beliefs create limiting results. Your thoughts create your emotions, your actions, and results for you. And I know that Susanne is also going to be touching on this as well, and how we review and receive this information and how it makes an impact within us. Remember, small daily consistent practice can make massive transformation. We all know about the 1%. I'm sure the 1% improvement, that's a real thing. It really does make a difference. So we want to be making that consistency, because your mind is everything. So before I hand over to the wonderful Fiona, who's going to touch on and look at finding your clarity and confidence, if you want more, here I am. And we can get rid of your limiting beliefs, fears, or behaviors that are really getting in the way. It's just a phone call away to see how this can affect you. I want to say thank you very much for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here today. And again, any questions, please pop them in the chat. And we really look forward to seeing the rest of the speakers today. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Helen, and thank you, Mary. I was struggling with unmuting then. And I'll give myself a bit of forgiveness for that. I'll come on to that in a minute. So, hi everybody, I'm Fiona. It's so lovely to see some familiar faces on here today and some new faces as well. You're all very, very welcome. I am going to talk a bit about finding clarity and confidence in yourself, in your business, in life in general. However, I do only have 20 minutes, so I'm not going to go deep on that. We are just kind of scratching the surface today, I'm sure you'll appreciate. Have a look out for some recurring themes, because you will notice some recurring themes through the presentations today. We're really going to encourage you to get some routines in place to help you with some of this stuff. I'm going to talk quite a bit about action. Helen just said that great quote there: action is the antidote to fear. And so we're going to be talking about the importance of taking action today. And to start with, so I'm just going to ask you for a bit of interaction. I'm going to share with you some of the thoughts that go on in my head. So Helen's talked about some generally. And I would just like you to share a yes in the chat if you recognize any of these things in yourself, more than anything to let me know that I'm not on my own with this stuff. So here we go. This is the kind of stuff that pops into my head regularly. I have no idea what I'm doing. Who am I to be doing this? Ugh, other people know this stuff far better than I do. Oh gosh, I don't know what the next step is. Just going to grab my phone and have a little scroll on Instagram for a bit. Does anybody recognize any of that in themselves? Yes, 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 yes. Thanks, Lou. Oh, thank you so much, everybody. That makes me feel so much better, because I now know I'm not on my own, and hopefully you know that you're not on your own with this stuff. These kinds of thoughts are an indication that you're probably feeling a little bit overwhelmed with what's going on. And you're probably feeling a little bit like an imposter at times. Please know that that is really common. You're not on your own with this stuff. We feel this a lot. So Helen's obviously talked a lot about these kinds of thoughts and how we can interrupt them. And I'm going to give you a few more hints and tips for how we can get around some of these thoughts as well. Yes, with the IT stuff. Gosh, yes, I feel you there. Me too. Definitely. So from the evidence that's out there, we know that when we do have all this overwhelm and this sense of not feeling good enough, in order to get to a place where we are feeling clearer and we are feeling more confident, self-compassion can really help us to get there. Now, full disclosure, I have a passion for compassion. And in particular, I've got a passion for developing compassionate leadership and compassion at work. I'm just going to tell you a tiny bit about myself before we go any further, just so you know where I'm coming from. So this is me. 19 years ago, I stepped into my first senior leadership role. And for the last 11 years, I've been coaching, mentoring, teaching leadership at Manchester Business School and other places. And over the years, I've done lots and lots of different courses because I've never felt good enough. So I keep doing more courses. But over all of those courses, what I have had reinforced time and time again is that faith in and that passion for compassion and compassionate leadership in particular. I strongly believe that we need compassionate leadership in our businesses and in life more generally. So what do I mean when I talk about compassion? So from all that study that I've done over the years, I think there's a compassion equation that we can work with. And that is empathy plus action equals compassion. And empathy is really about being able to resonate with other people, put yourself in somebody else's shoes and understand how they might be feeling. And critically, taking action to help someone else improve their circumstances. So compassion is essentially about improvement. And often, thankfully, we're really good at offering compassion to other people. Not always. Some people can hide their compassion very well. But in general, we're very good at offering compassion, especially to our friends and people that we love. We're not so good at offering compassion to ourselves. What I want to reinforce today is that we can offer compassion to ourselves. And actually, we really should offer compassion to ourselves. And that's because self-compassion is essentially about looking after ourselves first. And you'll be familiar with the airline safety briefing, won't you, when you go on holiday and they do the safety briefing and they say, fit your own oxygen mask before helping others. And that's because, of course, if you can't breathe, you can't help other people. And we all want to help other people as part of our businesses, don't we? You can't pour from an empty jug, so you have to fill yourself first. So what does that actually mean in practice? What am I talking about when I'm talking about self-compassion? Well, there's an academic in America called Dr. Kristen Neff, who's done a lot of work on self-compassion. So if you're interested in this, you could look her up. She's got a couple of really great books. And she talks about there being three main components to self-compassion. The first of those is self-kindness. So this is treating yourself with care, treating yourself with acceptance and non-judgment, and tapping into some of the things Helen's already talked about, speaking to yourself with kindness, catching those negative statements and turning them into statements that have more warmth and more positivity to them. The second element of self-compassion is what Kristen Neff talks about when she talks about common humanity. And that is recognizing that life can just be tough sometimes and tough things happen. And actually, when tough things do happen, we're not on our own. It's a really common experience. We all go through hard times in work and in life. And a good antidote to those tough times is to come together. So we're doing that today, aren't we? We're coming together, we're helping each other, supporting each other. So without even realizing it, you're already practicing self-compassion. So congratulations on that. And then the third part that Kristen Neff talks about is what she calls mindfulness. And what she means by that is paying attention to the thoughts that come into your head, paying attention to your emotions and your experiences, but not becoming too attached to them, letting them go. And again, Helen's talked about the fact that we experience something like 40 to 70,000 thoughts a day. So my goodness, isn't your brain a busy place if that's going on in your head? And I always think about my brain being a bit like my laptop. I don't know about you, and I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but I often get that blue circle of doom on my laptop. And it's usually because this kind of stuff's going on. So many unopened emails, tabs open, we're in music. My goodness, there's so much going on. And this happens on my laptop, kind of like it happens in my brain. So I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but if you get to that stage on your laptop and it starts to freeze, what is the first thing that you do in order to get your laptop back online? Just let me know on the chat. What sort of thing would you do? And I don't mean chuck it out the window, which is my first reaction. Don't do that. Yep, more browsers get opened, not helping. Pause, yep. Reboot, brilliant, perfect. Yes, you switch it off and you switch it back on again, don't you? And what that does is it gives your laptop a chance to just go, oh, phew, just going to take a quick break, get a bit of space, and then we'll try again. And the same thing applies to our brains. And thankfully, we can do that same kind of switch off and switch back on again for our brains. And it's about giving our brains a chance to just calm down from all that overwhelm. And if we're running our own businesses, my goodness, haven't we got overwhelmed? We've got it all going on, haven't we? So we're the chief executive, we're probably the chief finance officer, we might be the head of IT, the head of marketing, PR, and IT, so it goes on, so it goes on. We've got a lot going on. And when we have that overwhelm coming into our brains, a very primitive brain kicks in and feels threatened, and it kicks into that fight or flight response. And when that happens, our brain shuts down all those lovely parts at the front of our brain that we need to run our business. Things like problem solving and rational thinking and decision making, and all the things that give us clarity. So what we need to be able to do is turn down the fear so we can turn up the good stuff at the front. And mindfulness can do that for us. Mindfulness can enable us to get some clarity. And the great thing about mindfulness is that you can do it anywhere. So you can go to a class, but of course you don't have to. You can do mindfulness when you're just out for a walk, or if you're sitting at your desk, for example, and you can do it in really short bursts of time. And if you're thinking, oh, what a lot of fluffy nonsense this is, I didn't come here to talk about mindfulness. It's okay, I understand. You're not the first person to have thought that way. Lots of people think like that. But let me just illustrate that mindfulness is used in lots and lots of high pressure situations for good reason. So, for example, Helen mentioned athletes before. Athletes, performers will use mindfulness to help them focus, to help them reduce anxiety. First responders in critical incident situations, so police officers, firefighters, for example, they can use mindfulness really effectively to keep them focused and to help them make sure they're taking good quality decisions in really high pressurized situations. Excuse me. So there's nothing fluffy about mindfulness, actually. It's a really high quality tool for us to use that can help us to get some clarity. So who has tried mindfulness here before? Just let me know in the chat. Some hands going up, lovely to see. Some have. I guess not everybody has. If you have tried mindfulness before, lovely. There's lots of yeses, brilliant. If you have tried it before, just enjoy what's coming next, because we're going to do some. And if you haven't tried it before, just enjoy what's coming next. Just try and relax into it. And I would just invite you to just wholeheartedly just give this a go, because it's about taking action. It's about maybe trying something a bit different. And today we're going to just do a quick body scan. So some of you might be familiar with this. Louise teaches it to others, so fantastic. You can give me a score out of 10 at the end, Lou. Thank you. Okay, so when we have stress in our bodies, it can create some energy. So you might want to start with shaking that off, actually. Shaking your arms and squishing your hands and your legs just to get rid of some of that energy. And if you're on your own in your own time, you might want to go for a brisk walk, for example, to get rid of some of that energy. So it's a good place to start. But just now, we're just going to start to settle. So I'm just going to invite you, if it feels comfortable, feels right, just to get comfortable in your chair. Just release your shoulders. And I'm going to invite you just to take a couple of deep breaths right into the bottom of your lungs. So when you breathe in now, fill up from the bottom of your lungs right to the top. And then hold for a couple of seconds. And as you breathe out now, just really empty your lungs. Squeeze all the air out of your lungs. And then we're going to take another deep breath right into the bottom of our lungs, so our belly rises all the way up. Hold for a couple of seconds. And then breathe out all the way out. Squeeze all that air out of your lungs. And I'm going to invite you just to lower your gaze, fix your focus. And if it feels right when you're ready, just close your eyes now. We're going to do a bit of a body scan. So I'm just going to invite you to pay attention to what's going on around your head and your face. And just notice. Notice how it feels around your forehead, around your eyes, around your jaw. And if you've got any tension that you're holding in at all, just let that go. And then just bring your focus down to your neck and shoulders, down your arms, into the tips of your fingers. Just notice how that feels. And if you have any tension that you're holding there, just let that go. Now move your attention down to your torso. Just notice how your heart feels in your stomach. Think of your back. And where you're holding any tension at all, just let that go now. And then moving down, feel your seat bones on the chair. Notice how your muscles feel in your legs, down your calves, into your ankles, and down to the tips of your toes. If there's any tension there, just let that tension go now. I'm going to invite you to take one last deep breath all the way into the bottom of your lungs to the top. Breathe out any last tension that you might have been holding today. When you're ready, I'm just going to invite you to open your eyes and just come back to us. And just let me know how you're feeling in the chat. Just let me know what difference that made for you and how you're feeling now with that little body scan, which only took about 2-3 minutes. Relaxed, calming, feeling better. Lovely, lovely. Oh, I'm so pleased to see that. That only took 2 to 3 minutes. We can all find 2 to 3 minutes in our day. What happens when we do this is we're starting to send a message to our nervous system that we're safe and we can calm down, and it starts to turn off that fear response in our brain so that the front part of our brain can come back to life and give us all those lovely things that we need for running our business. There are lots and lots of other mindfulness practices that you can try. There are lots of other practices to calm your nervous system that you can try. This is just one of many. Thank you, Louise. I got a heart. I'm hoping that means that was okay from the teacher. Okay. This is a great exercise to do, very short exercise before you do some big work in your business. So things like setting your vision and getting clear on your values. You will already have done this, I'm sure, but it's always good to revisit that work in your business. And that's the kind of work that can become your North Star. That's the kind of work that can give you real clarity in your business. It's deep work. We don't have time for it today, but I am going to give you a couple of smaller exercises that you can try and that you can take away with you. So the first one is this. And again, I'm going to start to build on what Helen said about having a morning and an evening routine. So this one I would encourage you to do in the morning when you're getting into your work zone. Start off with the body scan. First of all, put the 5 minutes in your diary every day so that you've got that protected time in your diary. Start with the body scan. And then when you come out of it, just put your hand on your heart and just ask yourself, what do I need to do today? What are the most important things I need to do today? And write them down. And then use that as your focus for the day. Use that to give you clarity for the day. Do it every day. The more you do this, the more you practice, like anything, the easier it will get for you. And then you can couple that with a weekly practice as well. Again, hold some time in your diary. So this is about planning ahead for the next week. So you might want to hold some time in your diary on a Friday afternoon or maybe a Sunday evening, for example. Should take about 30 minutes tops. Again, start with a body scan, get yourself calm so your brain can spark into action. And do a bit of a brain dump. Just let's get out of your brain everything that's whirring around that you think you need to do in the next week. Write it all down or pop it on your laptop. And then once you've got it all in front of you, start to prioritize those tasks. Once you've got them prioritized, the next step is to actually put them in your diary so that you can do them. Create some time to get the tasks done. We often have a massive to-do list and no time set aside to actually do the doing. So this is really important. One of my clients has been doing this. I've been working with them. I'm going to call them Lee for the purposes of today. And Lee's been implementing this work every day, coming from a place of quiet chaos to a place where they're now feeling much more organized. And actually, they use this brain dump technique in the evening as well, just to deal with any stressy things that are in their brain. Getting it out of your brain helps to reduce your stress. And they've been sleeping better as well as a result. So something you can try for that too. As I said, that the body scan, it was just one method of mindfulness that you can try. There are lots of different ways to do mindfulness. I've got a little workbook there, which you can have if you want to get you from frazzled to focused in 5 minutes a day. There's 7 exercises in there for you to try, which will help you with your leadership approach. So it will help you get clarity on things like decision making and how you respond in stressful situations. So if you want that, it's free. You can scan the QR code or just drop me a message and I will send you the link to that. You're very welcome. I also wanted to say a little bit about confidence here, and I want to come back to the compassion equation for that. And that's because the compassion equation has action at the centre of it. We have to take action for it to be true compassion. And action is really critical in relation to confidence as well. We often think that we have to be confident first before we take the action. Actually, the opposite is true. Action actually enables confidence. We have to be taking the action first. And you recognize that from so many things. You know, everything that we've done, we started off as a beginner, whether that's playing an instrument or learning a language or playing a new sport. We start from a place of having to take imperfect action. And the more action we take, the better we get and the more confident we get. So starting with action can really get the momentum that we need to get going. And that's how confidence builds. And the great thing about compassion as well is one of the underpinning principles of compassion is that small actions can make a big difference. So you can start small and be consistent with your actions and notice a difference. So another one of my clients, Jamie, said in their words to me that they had a crippling fear of having conversations with people. So we worked on really small actions that they could take on a regular basis to build their confidence, starting small and moving on. And this week, they are going to a conference to do some networking with senior leaders. So that's the difference that this can make. Small actions done consistently can improve your confidence. So again, I just have a couple of little exercises for you that you can take away and try. This first one, I would suggest you add to your end of day routine. So Helen talked about the importance of thinking about gratitude at the end of the day. This is a way to track your progress. So what I would encourage you to do is make a note and keep a note actually, because it's good to be able to look back on so you can see your progress. Set aside 5 minutes and make a note of 3 small ways that you moved forward today. And they can be tiny, tiny ways. It doesn't have to be big progress. But this is about signaling to yourself that you are making progress, acknowledging that, allowing yourself to feel proud of that, and keeping a track of the progress that you're making. So when you look back on it, you can keep it with your success inventory that Helen mentioned and have a good record of the progress that you've made. All that will improve your confidence. And again, there's a weekly practice that can go with that too. And that's about keeping a learning journal. Now, the reason it's important to keep a learning journal is because if you are taking lots of action, inevitably, you're going to have some failures. And I want to bring us back to those principles of self-compassion here. So when you do fail, because you will, because we all do, come back to those principles of self-compassion. So speak to yourself kindly. Recognize and acknowledge that failing is just part of being human and it's normal and it's okay. And feel the feelings you need to feel, but then let them go. Don't attach to them. And then critically learn from it. Learn from the failures. So again, set yourself time aside every week. You might want to attach this to your forward planner for next week. 15 minutes. Keep a note in a journal. What have I learned from my actions this week? From the good stuff and from the stuff that's not gone so well. What have I learned and what am I going to do differently as a result of that learning into next week? Keep taking the actions, keep learning, and see what difference it makes to your confidence. Okay, so we're just going to come back to the statements that I made at the start here, and just consider how might it be different if we came to these statements from a place of speaking to ourselves kindly, a place of learning, and a place of taking action. What difference might that make? It might sound like, I have no idea what I'm doing yet, but I'm learning and I'm getting there. Other people know this stuff better than I do. And that's just a thought that I'm thinking. And thoughts are fleeting and they are not facts. Oh, I don't know what the next step is. But instead of scrolling on Instagram, I'm going to do a body scan. I'm going to do a brain dump. I'm going to just take the action. And if you're still wavering a little bit on the taking the action front, I just want to share this quote with you from Carrie Green, who's a very successful entrepreneur. And it was a real light bulb moment for me when I heard her say this. In 100 years, none of us who are here today will be here. What are you worried about? Just go for it. Let's just go and take the action that we need to take to bring life to our businesses. So in my coaching and in my programs, I follow a 5-step framework for the people I work with. Things we talked about today is about self-compassion to help us get some clarity and about taking action to help us gain some confidence. Those are 2 tiny bits of the first 2 steps. There's loads more in there, and there's loads more in the 5-step framework that I use. So we really have just scratched the surface today. We haven't had long, but I hope that that's been really helpful to you, and you've got some things that you can take away and use. And I'd love to know how you get on with it. So please do keep in touch. You can scan the QR code there to connect with me on LinkedIn. Please do. And drop me a message. Let me know how you're doing and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for engaging wholeheartedly. I really appreciated that today. Thank you. So I'm now going to hand over to Susanne, who's going to talk to you about identity.
Thank you so much, Fiona. That was brilliant. I had so many notes and scribbles and takeaways. Let me just share my screen. Sorry, that will probably take a second until the right one is coming up. Sorry. Here we go. You might find throughout my talk that there are similarities and maybe overlaps from what Helen shared with you and Fiona. I'm just coming from a place where instead of looking from the outside in, seeing ourselves as the success that we are looking for, meaning we have learned through our conditioning that we're creating the success outside of ourselves. But I'm taking the step back and actually starting with our identity as seeing ourselves as the success that we're seeking. So my Zoom is very, very, very slow. It's not letting me full screen. Bear with me. Here we go. That's it. Hopefully. Zoom always stops or limits the capacity, the juice, the flow that goes. Oh, here we go. I need to make ourselves a little smaller, so I can't see you right now, and neither can I see the chat.
We
Right.
can keep an eye on the chat for you, Suzanne.
Say again. Oh, thank you. Hold on. So let me just start from the beginning. I am Suzanne. I am a broadband consciousness and transformation coach and mentor. And I spent 30 years in the corporate world and high-pressured environments, chasing outward success, but feeling empty inside, a little bit like this figure here, creating a life that looked good and sounded good, but inside I felt empty and hollow. And I eventually found a little superpower someone shared with me. And nowadays I'm teaching and sharing the same methodology with others to finally feel fulfilled from the inside out instead of just chasing the next thing. So we tend to look at ourselves, but most of the time we don't really see ourselves. We see what's wrong with us, and we have been conditioned to look at ourselves as almost like an incomplete item, and everything that we try to achieve from the outside, we're hoping to, whatever is our achievement, whether it's the business achievement or whether it's the achievement through corporate employment, we are hoping to feel complete through outside circumstances, and eventually that we're trying to make that outside to make us feel complete. And we often walk around as if something is wrong with us, as if we need to achieve more and do more to actually feel complete. But in truth, there is nothing wrong with you, I can assure you. It's just a conditioning, and we have never learned to look at ourselves as a whole and complete person. And that is based on the conditioning. We all carry stories within us, sometimes completely unknown, but I call those stories that run a little bit like an outdated operating system, so in the background, completely unknowingly, but like I said, an outdated operating system that feeds a script from which we read from. And I call this a script on purpose because it's a script that has been handed over to us, a script we have adopted or inherited, so to speak, from our upbringing, education system, societal norms, and we're trying to fit in a script, and we're trying to fit in. That's good to say. The script also, some people say it's the ego or the narrative or the negative voice, or there's different labels we give that sort of conditioning. However, I call it a script because we have never chosen. We have never learned to choose what to think and not to think. And therefore, I call it a script. And I teach my coaching client how to disown it, no longer take ownership of it. So, and this script that runs also like outdated stories in our minds also create or diminish our core desired feelings. And our core desired feelings, I call them five. There are five of core desired feelings. I almost or often say they are our batteries, as if they are like the cylinders that are firing the engine. And I've discovered there are five of them that we try to top up through our lifetime. So let me just explain. So if you have five batteries, we are born with fully charged batteries. We feel accepted and validated, accepted and approved. We feel belonging and connection. We feel love and loved. We feel safe and secure, and we feel significant and worthy. And throughout our upbringing and throughout our education system and trying to fit into societal norms, these five core desired feelings, these batteries are literally diminished. There is no energy left. So and throughout our lifetime, we try to top up these five core desired feelings through outside achievements. The successful business, the career, the fantastic and perfect personal life or family life. We aim to feel significant and worthy. We're aiming for acceptance and approval. We're aiming to feel loved and to give love, and we're aiming to feel secure and safe. That's, for example, our financial situation. We want to have a safe and secure financial situation. And we feel, I know I'm mixing them up, I think those core desired feelings, but you get the gist. And the lack of our core desired feelings also feed our limiting identity. Or they are the base for our identity, I would say. So the more fully charged core desired feelings you have, the higher an aligned identity you have or you carry within you. So for example, a limiting identity, and let me just explain sort of everything that comes after I am, the description of how we label ourselves that comes after I am. For example, I am not enough. So we're trying to convince ourselves that we are enough through achievements, through doing, through, accomplishments. I am not that kind of person is a wording that we often say, oh yeah, because we think we're not that kind of person or we don't come from that kind of family. So we won't even take a step forward because we're not that kind of person. We're basically telling ourselves and limit ourselves exactly with that kind of words. I'm just the assistant. We are limiting ourselves with the label of I am just. I am just the assistant. That was my label for so long in the corporate world. And therefore, I didn't take a step forward to actually apply for another role, or I was not speaking up in a meeting room because I was just in a packing order. I felt below. So therefore, my identity wasn't that I'm showing up in a room where I belonged. I'm only the plus one. We often label ourselves as we are, again, like only the other half, only the plus one, meaning that if we don't have the partner with us, we feel almost like we are just the half of it. But that's not true, obviously. Obviously, we haven't, because we have never learned to show up as whole and complete in our life. And therefore, we make ourselves smaller with limiting identities. I'm always busy, and always busy identity will always find a reason to be frantically busy and fill the diary and find ways of getting things done. A busy identity will find it very, very difficult to relax, to feel worthy of, taking time for yourself, putting your feet up and enjoying it without the guilt. And ambitious, I am ambitious. You might say, oh, this is actually a really good trait. This is, especially in the corporate world, is seen as a strength. However, I am ambitious is an identity that will always feel behind and never feel successful, because an ambitious identity will always set another goal and another goal and another goal. You get my gist, right? So I am a doer. I was carrying that label for so long. I am the doer. German efficiency. You can probably tell on my twang that I'm not English born. So I carried, especially for over 30 years or longer, I am German efficiency. I get things done. So I was always a solution provider for everyone else. And I got things done. I literally carried that in my elevator pitch. I'm a doer. And with that, I didn't even realize how much I actually diminished my own identity, because I am the doer never allowed me to relax, to sit down, to make myself a priority, to care for myself, because I thought I needed to be seen as constantly in action. I know what I want, an identity that will never make you feel deserving, because you were always wanting something else and you're wanting something else and you're looking outside of yourself, constantly needing the next thing. I know what I want. You're also limiting yourself in terms of you're looking down one kind of pathway. I know what I want. I want to build a particular business. I know what I want. I want to look this and that way. I know what I like and what I don't like. That's an identity that doesn't allow you to actually see possibilities. And plus, this I want or I like will never allow you to feel deserving. Now, on the other hand, the aligned identity, and I totally get that is an identity that probably is a little bit of a journey. However, the most powerful identity you can carry is I am, followed by your name, not a label or a title or a status hierarchy level attached to your name. That is an identity that shows up literally fully charged, worthy, deserving, significant, safe and secure, and belonging and fully loved. That's an identity that literally walks into any room as if you belong there. And yes, I get that. That is probably a little bit daunting or maybe too far in the distance for some people, but it's absolutely doable. Because when we see ourselves and carry that identity of I am unique, because every one of us is unique in its own right. If you carry that identity of I am unique, no longer needing to fit into some other mold, needing to please other people, that is an aligned identity. I belong here. I feel connected. Is very powerful. Not just a phrase to carry, but it's a feeling. It's a kind of a, I don't even remember, I'm losing the word right now, but you know what I mean. I am always calm and content. If you carry an identity of calm and content, you will find ways of contentment and calm. You will avoid stress and frantic situations because it's almost like it repels you. You energetically feel calm and content in whatever environment you're in. I'm curious, and a curious identity will look for opportunities, is open for opportunities, and will go like, oh, is that even possible? There's an openness, and I am creating my life. Helen mentioned that before. I'm creating my life. That is an identity that oozes possibility, that oozes a flexibility. And I am worthy. That means you're showing up as if you're belonging and you are accepting whatever is giving to you. I'm worthy of love. I am worthy of a fantastic business. I am worthy of relationships or collaborations. I am worthy of showing up for myself. I'm worthy of making time for myself and being kind to myself, as Fiona mentioned in her talk. When you feel worthy, you don't have to justify anymore. You don't have to justify making time for yourself because you're showing up as I'm worthy. If you have an identity of I am capable, you're really, I'm capable. Fiona mentioned that she's doing courses because of that not enough. When you switch from not enough to capable and own the identity of I know enough. I know everything there is to know. Again, you're showing up for yourself in a completely different way. Can you see the difference in when I actually talk about a limiting identity, how it's almost draining the energy, when aligned identity is uplifting and full of possibility? And you can probably tell on my body language and how I explain it. My coach, Liz Ivory, always used to say, you give someone an identity, he or she will live up to it. So carrying and being really aware of what kind of identity do I carry? Is that supporting where I want to go? Or is it limiting me? And everything that follows after I am becomes your identity. Now, and why is this identity and this I am, I'd say game, very important? Because your behaviors follow your identity always. It's almost like an unspoken, unknown sort of little secret, but you give, and that's when my coach said, you give someone an identity, he or she will live up to it because the behaviors will follow. So if you have an identity of, I'm always busy, I'm ambitious, I'm a doer, that is a recipe for stress and burnout. Or I want, because you're wanting always something else. So that's a recipe because you're constantly, your behaviors will follow. You will always do. You will always find action, taking action every minute of the day or every week. And going on holiday and taking a rest, there will always be guilt in the background. So And the superpower is, it's not about deciding who do I need to be, what's my identity moving forward, but actually finding the superpower is finding your identity, who you are now. And that feeds the choices you make today, but it also finding out who you are in the future. And knowing who you are now and who you maybe want to grow into. I don't like the saying of becoming someone else, because that means that who you are now is kind of not good enough. But it is, when we discover our identity, who we are now, that is the superpower. So let me just iterate. The sense of identity drives every small choice you make. And how you see yourself and that self-perception feeds into every choice, and the choices you feed back to yourself, and the choices you make feed back how you see yourself. It's a little bit like Fiona explained, the actions you take enable you to see yourself as the confident person, and the confidence will grow. That's similar. And yet how you see yourself, not just looking at yourself, but how you see yourself, influences every aspect of your business, work, and life. And it shapes the relationship you have with others. And that is very powerful. Now, just leaving you with a couple of questions in terms of the power of your identity. How does your current goal fit in with the current person you are? If your goal is somewhere in the future and your identity somewhere don't have what it takes, then that's probably a little bit of a disconnection. How do you want to see yourself moving forward? What's the picture of yourself? And most of all, how does it feel being you right now? Do you feel accepting with yourself? Do you feel worthy and deserving, whole and complete? And how do you want to feel about yourself? And how do you want your business, work, and life to feel like? And I'm talking about feelings in a minute again. And what does the identity you would choose? What identity would you choose if you could? So talking about feelings, and I said at the beginning, you are the success you're seeking, because we are chasing things. We are chasing success from the outside in. We're chasing the success, the business success, the financial success, to make us feel a certain way, complete, belonging, happy, full of possibility and options. But what if we actually can choose the feeling that we're chasing? You can feel that feeling right now. So I'm having and actually adding a little bit of an exercise or a little challenge. Helen mentioned the morning routine, and Fiona said the morning and the evening routine, and keeping a little journal. And the self check-in, absolutely, the self check-in. Where are you now? What is it that you need? And then I'd like to add to the intention to actually choose a feeling that you want to feel for the day. Because we wake up in the morning and we kind of feel a certain way. Because we have a certain thought, and that thought creates the feeling. So whatever the thought is, write it down. Becoming aware of it is the first step. And then we kind of have that feeling. Most of us wake up and go like, oh yeah, we have to get up. But if we do this exercise of actually becoming very clear and setting the intention and choosing 2 to 3 feelings that you want to feel for that particular day, knowing what's going on, whether you have to do a presentation, whether you're having a really, really busy day and you have one meeting after another, maybe it's a new day and you do something that you have never done before, or you're facing a little challenge in the day, choosing the feeling that you want to feel. And I gave you a couple of examples of feelings, whether we're feeling completely frantic and our mind is going, is that the feeling that we want to have? Is maybe rooted, maybe want to feel content, and calm. And by saying these words, you feel them. And again, I think it was Helen saying what we are saying, we're hearing. And I'm saying what we're saying, we're not only hearing, but we're feeling. So if you actually have a day and you wake up and you feel a little bit meh, and you actually decide that you want to feel mighty and bold for the day, and see, you can actually rub my smile on my face, or you want to feel ecstatic and excited, enlightened, you want to feel energized and alive, regardless of what's happening. That feeling will carry you through the day. And when you do this exercise, and I challenge you to do this for 5 days, choose a feeling, one feeling that really, inspired, held, harmony, anything. You want to feel purposeful or rooted, or maybe you want to do rock and roll, whatever it is. You put that feeling in first. Do that for 5 days. And I'd love to know what difference that makes in terms of your energy and your actions that you're taking going forward. I'm excited about that. So, and just final comments, what difference would it make to your solopreneur journey knowing you always have your own back, knowing you're your own best friend? And Jay Shetty and I share the same sort of business mantra, because a life that looks good or sounds good is nothing compared to a life that feels good. And everything we do is driven by the feeling that we want. So giving us the feeling now it's not winning half the battle. I don't want to even talk about the battle, but it takes us on that trajectory of how we want to feel and creating the energy and the feeling that we want to have. So I hope you have some takeaways from this, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to keep in touch, if you want to learn more about how to dismantle that old story, that outdated operating system, or how to disown the script that always shows up, that's exactly what I do. And I usually coach corporate professionals, but it actually doesn't matter whether it's corporate or whether it's business owners. You can connect with me, drop me an email. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'd love to hear from you. And with this, I stop sharing my presentation and hand over to the wonderful Claire. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. That was amazing. I am going in with the feeling of rock and roll to this presentation now. Let's see how that goes. So we are there's been so much that's amazing stuff that's been shared there and lots to go in. So I'm going to be really quick with my presentation because I've got a lot of information for you. So I'm going to cover today how to manage PR for your personal brand and your small business. So a little bit about me. I am a comm specialist. I've worked in PR for 25 years, worked with some of the best agencies in the UK. I was previously head of PR for Very and Royal Caribbean. I also launched eBay, ASOS and Amazon in the UK. I have managed PR budgets up to £5 million a year, which was fantastic, spending such sizable amounts of money. But I've also launched hundreds and hundreds of startups on shoestring budgets. I've had my own agency for more than a decade, and I have recently founded the Press Office, which I position as a co-consultancy model. So basically teaching small business owners how they can confidently manage their own PR. I've also written a book called The Foolproof Guide to Manage PR for Your Small Business. So hopefully you can see that I know what I am actually talking about. So I'm going to quickly run through what is PR. Comes up quite a lot and people have different conceptions of that. PR basically builds awareness and credibility for your brand, product or your service in a range of different mediums. So that is newspapers, magazines, TV, radio, online, or via influencers and celebrities. So I think the key point of difference is that it's unlike advertising, it is free, or we refer to it as earned media. So it's not paid for. But as it's earned and you are getting that all important third party endorsement, it is so much more impactful than you paying product for someone to say how amazing your product or service is. This is that extra endorsement. And, you know, from a consumer perspective, we are all very media savvy now, and we can see what works and what doesn't, and people can see through a lot of, you know, advertising. So that's why it can make such a difference to you. I've got a quick quote here from Bill. Down to his last dollar, he'd absolutely spend it on public relations. But, you know, we're not all Bill, and we don't all have his wallet to spend. So what I wanted to address was, quite honestly, some of the challenges that come with running a PR program. So PR can be really expensive. If you're working with an agency, you know, minimum retainer is often £3,000 a month. And with that, you are very much down the rank in terms of the pecking order. People will often want a retainer. So that could be at least 6 months, if not a 1 year tie-in, quite tight contracts, big disbursement costs to charge on top of that. And therefore, when I come across people, a lot of people have been stung in the past with PR, because ultimately, as an earned medium, there are no guarantees. So that is the clear downside. You know, I've seen lots of things of people guaranteeing media coverage. That's just not possible, because you're working with the media agenda and the news agenda. So also, you know, do you even need PR in 2025? We've obviously got so many opportunities for social media and, you know, paid versus this earned or trying to secure media coverage. We've got AI. Do you need a PR now? And also, obviously, media consumption habits are changing. Well, what I would say, and I guess you could say, obviously, that's what I would say, is that absolutely, yes, you still need PR. PR is building awareness and credibility across all platforms. It's kind of the foundation for any of your marketing mix tools that you adapt and use. So as a solopreneur or a brand owner, especially your personal PR is really important, and it's really vital for getting you in front of new audiences, building trust and building your profile. Like I said, PR is just one piece of your overall marketing jigsaw. So it will run alongside social, ads, influencer relations, different events, and they all work together to create these kind of really key customer touch points as you go through their daily life. So what I would say is that you need to plan your marketing activity so that it's coordinated and consistent. And a strong PR strategy is a fantastic foundation for that, because if you nail all these different elements, it makes further outreach so much easier, because you know where you're coming from in terms of your messaging and your marketing mix. So I would say that PR isn't just about getting you in the papers or magazines. It's about shaping the story that people tell about you and your business, whether you're in that room or not. So hopefully that gives you a bit of clarity there. So can you manage your own PR? Absolutely, you can manage your own PR. No one is going to be as passionate about your brand than you. And you obviously, especially in these early stages of your business, you know your business inside out. By managing your own PR, it gives you an opportunity to develop media contacts and also different contacts. So, you know, if you get a celebrity client, perhaps in your clinic, that relationship builds with you and your business as you grow. If you're working with, for example, an agency partner, they often maintain those media contacts and any other wider contacts. So it's definitely worth bearing that in mind. Media opportunities have absolutely slimmed down over the years. So you've going to have less people and less titles that you can be targeting. What I would say is you have to be organised and ensure that you make it a proactive part of your business planning process, because otherwise it just won't happen. You need to be reaching out to media contacts on a regular basis so that they start to expect to hear from you. But bear in mind, it is very much quality over quantity in terms of coverage. You just want to be targeting a few really key people or titles to bring your brand message to life. And in order to do that, you need the right systems in place, and they need to be able to operate alongside your wider business requirements and demands. So being organised is key. And within that, you have to be really strict with your time, because there are always going to be opportunities and people that you can be targeting. So focused, consistent, and quality over quantity. What I would say is, if you don't have any interest in media or media trends, perhaps you might want to work with a colleague or someone within your business who does, because a big part of PR is tapping into the zeitgeist and what society and the news are talking about. And if you've got absolutely no interest in that whatsoever, you might find it difficult to manage. So with that, I have created a really practical whistle-stop tour about some key elements of PR and hopefully some key takeouts that you can apply to your business from today that will make a genuine impact. So, and I'm really sorry if I feel like I'm talking at you, but I've got a lot to whiz through, so I'll just crack on. So your vision, you will know this already. So a lot of this is kind of common sense, but get clear what you want to achieve, start small and scale up. So I always tell clients to get a mood board of who their dream customer or client is and put in as much detail as possible, have it around your office. And within this, include you. So where do you want to see your service or your brand being talked about and referenced? Use that to make informed decisions. So when you do get media opportunities coming in, you can be really clear and say no to anything that isn't in alignment in terms of where your brand is going and your vision for your brand. You are no doubt clear about your brand positioning and your product values. Using those values, create 4 or 5 key messages that you want people to take away about you or your brand or your service. So it's absolutely worth putting the time in now so you've got those, edit them, play around with them, make sure that they truly resonate, and then stick to them and weave those into your press material and messaging moving forward. So then any interviews that come up or any podcasts, you've got them all ready to go and to hand. When it comes to raising your profile, this is key as a brand owner or solopreneur. You want to firstly check your digital footprint. You perhaps might be a very different person to the person that you were 10 years ago. Just make sure that anything that is out there publicly is representative of who you are today as a business owner and where you are going. You really want to keep remembering you want to be an authority in your field. So you want to stay as informed as possible. You have to get brave at putting yourself out there, and that is putting yourself to media, but also putting yourself forward for podcasts, interviews, or attending events. One key thing to bear in mind is your invisible PR. The work that you do, how you treat your staff and your clients is always going to be representing you in the background. So I always tell people to bear that in mind because that's key. I'm going to briefly touch on the media landscape, which has hugely changed over the past, say, 10 years. If you're going to be doing your own PR or looking for PR opportunities for your brand or service, you really have to broaden your horizons in terms of the media that you consume. It's really easy for us to fall into habits of what resonates with us and what we like. But what I always tell people to do is to look further than where they normally would. So proactively make yourself watch, listen, and read a range of media, ideally outside of your usual favourites. So, if you normally listen to Radio 6, can you listen to Radio 4 for a week? Just to kind of get a feel for what stories work for them, what's resonating. And I promise you, it will absolutely give you some inspiration about what media are interested in, but also what different audiences, how that works for that kind of news agenda. Pay attention to what stories are being picked up by the press. Can you see any trends that would be relevant to you? Could you piggyback on that? And by looking into those different habits of consuming media on a daily basis, try and make sure that it's outside of your usual algorithm, because you're obviously being fed stuff that's more in keeping with your usual media habits of what you like. What I would say there is quickly is, obviously, if you're running your own business, you're really tight of time. Try and make sure that you buy a different paper at the weekend. So be that, if you normally go for broadsheets, maybe force yourself to buy a tabloid, and that will, even just by spending half an hour whizzing through that will really help you to see what's resonating, what TV shows are coming up, what celebrities are making the cut, and that's really useful for you moving forward. You need to create your press office. And again, that doesn't have to sound as daunting as it could be. You need a media list. just a really basic Excel document will do. Start small, put in some key titles that you really want to start working with or want to appear in, and build and grow from there. Carry out a quick media audit on those key titles, and that is just going through them, consuming them, and starting to spot regular profile columns, who the journalists are, and what's working for them. On your from your brand perspective, can you set up a press at your brand email and make sure that there's a contact number on your website? If you get a last minute request from news at 10, they will need a phone number to get hold of you, and that's a huge bugbear for media because they can't get hold of anybody anymore, and it's never worked for their deadlines. Set up a Google alert for your competitors and also key industry topics. That will make it much easier for you to stay on top of what is resonating in terms of the news and what's making the cut. General requests is a really useful hashtag that you should follow on X, and that is lots of free media opportunities. I would suggest you follow that and if it gives you an idea of the kind of things that media are looking for. And then as you build your confidence, you might then be brave enough to start putting yourself forward and pitching. There are also lots of other kind of more budget friendly resources. So for example, Lightbulb is one, and they source media opportunities for founders and brand owners. So there are several different resources that you could look at. You want to create your press material. So that is taking it from a really basic level. You need a press release featuring those 5 key messages. So that is one page which explains the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why about you. What's different? What's your USP? Why would people want to feature you compared to a competitor? Ideally, you want a biography and a company backgrounder, which explains a bit more about your brand and detail. You want a really good head and shoulder shots of you as a founder. And depending on your product offer, you need access to high-res products and lifestyle imagery. So obviously, if you run a product business, you need a lookbook, a seasonal lookbook, which you can produce on Canva really cost effectively. So it kind of depends on what your offer is. Within that, include a call to action, make it as clear as possible. Where can they find you or purchase your service? You can absolutely use AI to help you here with structure, but lots of publishing groups use software that means they will reject anything that's been created from AI, and you don't want to just copy and paste that. You want to be creating content that is in keeping with your own voice. So just bear that in mind. So I have created a few really quite simple checkpoints that you can use for a number of different elements when it comes to running your PR. So firstly, pitching to press. Get clear on who you're targeting, have a copy of the title to hand or have done some research before you do the pitch. Try and think like a journalist. So think about who you're targeting, that it's the right person, what's the angle, what's the interest to them, why would their readers benefit from hearing about your brand. Remember lead times, so long leads, so the monthly magazines, they work months and months in advance, so you need to plan for that. So Christmas has already happened for them, for example, so all the Christmas gift guides have already gone to bed. And therefore you need to stagger your pictures and stories in keeping with that so that they know that you've got an idea of how the media market works. Be to the point and remember the point. So you are trying to persuade them to endorse your product or service via their platform. You just want to make it as easy as possible. So be concise, no waffle, no jargon, and a clear call to action. Think about that news angle. What makes it newsworthy? Often that can be that human interest angle. So case studies work really well for press, successful case studies or examples of problems that have been, there is a solution, perhaps you are that solution. So bear that in mind in terms of making it, human worthy. And your pitch etiquette. So have everything ready. If they come back to you and they want to know about you and your brand, it's often quite timely, so you need to get back in there quickly. Quality over quantity, so take a personal approach, no mass emails with blind CC, stick to office hours where possible, and don't hound them on social. So a lot of it is common sense. Main point being is consistency. So start small and expand within your business. So every week, I would recommend that you create reading time so that you are learning and absorbing new media titles or media platforms. You stay on top of your key industry press and key features. You diarise that time where you pitch to new media contacts, and you are constantly trying to monitor media trends. And this might sound like a lot, but once you start doing it and looking out for it, it's really interesting how you start to pick up and build this information and knowledge as you go. On a monthly basis, you should be going out with one proactive pitch, even if you've only got 3 titles on your media list that you want to go to. Also, get into the habit of maybe drafting one opinion piece every month, which you either build on if you're not completely happy with it, or you pitch to press, or worst case, you can just use it as content on LinkedIn. So that is the beauty of a lot of these different PR points, is that you can repurpose information, copy, content in different areas of your business further along the line. I would also recommend that you try on a monthly basis to force yourself to attend one networking event. So that could be meeting one of the journalists off your media list, offered to take them out for a coffee or a spot of lunch, or building someone who's in a similar kind of industry to you, so you can start building up your key contacts as you go. Now, when it comes to a PR strategy, people are often bamboozled, and lots of people will charge lots of money to, confuse you a little bit more. I've created a really simple strategy that you can apply to pretty much every business model that really breaks it down. So the first thing that you need to do is manage your reputation with media. And in order to do that, you deal with any of your press queries brilliantly to build your reputation. Start to regularly pitch stories and ideas so your media contacts start to know who you are and start to expect to hear from you. And just make sure that the press material that you create is of a really good standard. You also want to be building your profile. So that is either through media one-to-ones and relationship builders, or offering quotes and comments from you as an industry expert so you can start to build your authority, and also to put yourself forward to get involved in interviews and podcasts. What you also want to do is showcase your brand. So if you are a service business, that is inviting in some really key press, that could be 1 or 2, that you give them complimentary access to your service so they get to review it and then let their readers know about the impact it can have. That's a really standard PR approach, and that even if you just only do that, that will pay dividends for you. Constantly try and identify opportunities. So when you are absorbing different media, look out for that key profile column, or think where one of your recent client case studies might work. Also bear in mind things like, calendar hooks, different awareness days. They're really great tools for you to kind of piggyback on from a PR perspective, because it gives media a reason to talk about you outside of just feeling like it's a generic promotion for your brand. Other areas to look outside of your business would be awards programs, trade shows, celebrity and influencer partnerships, and also linking up with like-minded brands. Now, I'm conscious we are running out of time, so I'm trying to think what I can skim through the quickest. I've got some really interesting points there about building media contacts. That's really quite straightforward. I think the key thing is, don't be a stalker, pay attention, and be regular and consistent. Good PR is a long game, so take a slow, targeted approach with your results, and they will absolutely grow with your business. I've got some key points here about when you do get the chance to sit down for some media interviews. Again, that is real common sense. So double check the date and time, research the journalist and the title so you know who you are talking to. Remember those key messages that you want to convey, print them out, have them to hand. Prepare as much as you can, but remember, they are talking to you because you are an expert and they want to hear what you've got to say. So, give yourself a pat on the back and try and enjoy it. My key point is, don't use jargon or industry speak, and remember that nothing is ever off record when it comes to press. I'm going to briefly touch on industry awards. So every industry has got some kind of awards program, either with their local trade titles or different variations. And they can be great in terms of attracting a new audience or raising your profile. And they are really good for staff morale. And obviously, it feels great to be recognised by your industry. Some downsides are it can take a hell of a lot of time to collate an entry. It's really quite expensive, and it's not just the entry cost, it is the time cost. Often you are expected to buy X number of tickets to the awards event. There's different kind of titles they get. It's also really hard, or notoriously hard, to PR an award win, as other titles just won't cover it. So those are points that are worth bearing in mind. When you are entering awards, be selective. Would it really make that much of a difference to your business? Be really clear and concise in your response to the brief, and make sure you save it so you're not starting from scratch again for your next award entry. Remember to include measurable proof and emphasize the human angle. So when it comes to events and speaker ops, they are really fantastic for your PR, but people can be daunted about industry events. It's daunting for everyone. Just don't drink too much, be open and smile, have your elevator pitch to hand, but also don't be too salesy. Have some kind of normal real life pointers ready to talk to people about if you find small talk a struggle. Do remember to follow up with any of your connections that you make. And speaker ops are a great way to grow your authority. So if you get the chance, take it, challenge yourself and say yes to it. And don't be scared to proactively pitch yourself to any that you like the look of that you think might work. So I'm sorry that was really a very, very quick run through. There's some more details there. We are over at the press office group, and we offer lots of free and paid for resources that will hopefully be of use. Thank you for being here.
Wow. I don't know about you, but I've got even more notes in my book of things to do. So if there are any particular takeaways that you've had, please put them in the chats, because it's really helpful for us to learn and to improve what we do. Also, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So be accountable and like pop something and go, yes, I want to change this, so that you say it out loud, and maybe you change your identity there. So that would be handy, wouldn't it? We haven't got too much time left, so I'm just going to go through some things really quickly with you, so you've got them. And then if people want to stay on for questions afterwards, you're more than welcome to. But I'd like you to go back to your wheel that you've got there, and I'd like you to look at the one that scored the lowest on your wheel. And I want you to have a think about that, and then whether you're still as low as you were, or whether that's raised a bit. So what's changed? And after this, when you've got more time, go back through and go, actually, I've learned some stuff here. I feel a bit more confident about this. And even if you only improve by one marker, it's still a win. So, give yourself a pat on the back for that. Yeah, so hopefully there'll be some changes there. Remember, growth doesn't happen in a single day. It takes time. It takes consistency. You have to show up even when you don't feel like showing up. You have to show up and do the hard work, and it will pay off. That 1% difference every day will add up to a massive change over time. And just put your wheel somewhere, and so it reminds you that actually that keeps you on target, keeps you on focus, so you know where you're aiming for. Because if you know where you want to go, you'll stay on target. It's like if you ride a motorbike, I ride a motorbike. If you don't look where you're going, you don't go there. So basically, if you're looking in the wrong way, you go the wrong way. So keep focused and keep going into the right position. We're going to be sending you an email afterwards of details how you can get in touch. If you would like the replay, then the replay is only £9, and also there's an amazing workbook in there for you to go through. I do a lot of that accountability. I identify as a get shit done kind of lady, and I help people stay on track and do their things. So I've got a sprint for the next 3 months to the end of the year. So if you do want to join me with that, there is a sprint there. That's in the PDF that was sent out to you. And if anybody has any questions, we've got 5 minutes. So I think there's a couple in the chat. So if the team are okay to answer some questions, then that would be brilliant. If you want to put your hand up, then just let me know, and we can bring you in the room to ask questions. I definitely do. Thank you. I think is Nim still here? Did Namata have a question? Yeah. Yeah, if you want to unmute yourself, then you're
Yeah,
more than
Claire,
welcome
she did answer it. I was taking a lot of it in, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've been approached by a couple of PR kind of whatever they were like. They were interested in, yeah, promoting me and so forth. But I like to do my research, and I didn't go forward with them because I know things have changed well, since COVID times and so forth. So, and they didn't come up with anything that Claire was talking about. So that was interesting.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So if there's any other questions, please ask away. If you want me to share what's in the workbook, then I can share you what's in the workbook. But overall, thank you so much for taking your time and being with you. We don't take this lightly. We're very grateful that you've taken your time out today. And I hope that you've got as many gems out of this as I have, because I know it's been wonderful for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, share the workbook. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is the workbook. So we've all got some bits and pieces in here, and most of these things aren't in it, apart from some of the Claire stuff. She's got some stuff which is in it as well. So things that you can do to keep in touch and also do things to help yourself. Fiona's got some fantastic tables and some really good ideas to do things to help you, progress and get that confidence. And I think that compassion for ourselves is just so important. Suzanne's got some more interesting things about leadership through here and identity. And then Claire's got a really good course actually. It's worth having a look at that. There's lots of information there. And also if you've missed some of the slides, because there's a lot to write down, I was scribbling away. She's got the most important slides on here, so you can redo those ones. And then also I've got this audit, so you can help yourself to figure out where you want to go forwards. And then there's also free meditation there at the end. So yeah, so that's us. And I really hope that you've got content. If you've got any questions, just send us a message. So thank you very much, everybody. And I'll go through this chat and I'll sort it all out. So yeah, thank you very
Can I ask
much.
a question, or is it?
Yes, another
You're
one.
fine enough? Yeah, I liked what you just said about your identity about getting shit done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How do you stay balanced with that? Because I've recently recognized the imbalance of overgiving and receiving. So past few days I've been waking up like, yeah, I'm there with that. But then there's always something else because algorithms keep changing and yeah, everything's changing on a daily basis now and it's keeping up with that. So how do you manage all of that?
For me, I prioritize. Do you want to answer, Suzanne?
I mentioned the feelings. We really were driven by the feelings. We're so
Mhm.
used to feeling low or shit or overwhelmed and not or frantic or stressed. We're so used to those feelings and actually really tapping into what's the feeling that you want to have when you feel overstretched. What's the feeling? What the opposite is, and really tapping this, getting to know ourselves is we dismiss that because we're so conditioned of just potting on as we have learned and this this I need to do certain things, I need to be seen as fitting in, whatever it was, sort of getting this done and this done. Tapping in, is that feeling good? Is that currently helping me to get that balance that I want? Or maybe set the intention, how do I want to feel in my day? And when you decide and set the intention on the feeling that you want to have, and you practice this over and over and over again, you will notice when you're out of balance. You will notice when, oh, this is enough now. I actually need to practice self-compassion. That is all feeding in, is this
Yeah,
noticing ourselves, not just
I
seeing
do.
ourselves as the operating system, the robot, but actually noticing yourself as a human being
Mhm. Yeah,
and
yeah,
being gentle with yourself.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And timing myself as well. Like if I'm trying to sort something out, like giving it an hour and like, right, that's it, get off the computer. This is not you. You need to get out for a walk and
Yeah. Or for example, schedule your time slots. You know exactly what's happening, your meetings that are happening. Schedule in 15 minutes, stepping away from the desk, go for a walk, have a cup of tea, sit in the garden, weather permitting, obviously. Uh, yeah, doing what does you good, what feels good, tapping into the feeling. That's my advice.
yeah.
I think also as clinicians, it can be ridiculously busy because you're so busy taking care of everybody else, you forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And so, like, I know exactly where you're coming from, Nim, that I was burnt out like 8 years ago. I,
Oh,
you know, I'd
mm,
be driving home, trying not to close my eyes. I was so tired. So it
mm,
is setting those that boundaries and knowing where your zone of genius is and also what to delegate, what you can do, like what you're really good at and the stuff that drains you, like prioritize where your energy goes. And for me,
mm,
I have a hard stop. Like I don't get, unless I'm traveling, like I don't get in the car on a Sunday. I make sure I get out in nature. I
mm,
prioritize those things. And sometimes with our shifts, we don't work 9 to 5. Like sometimes our clinic opens at 7 in the morning and we finish at 8 at night and we're there on Saturdays and all sorts of things. There's stuff that needs doing. But it is making sure that you do leave time for yourself because you are the most important person in the room. And I say this to all of you, like we are the most important people. Everybody else, as people who give all the time, as solopreneurs, we're trying to provide a service for everybody else. Sometimes we forget that if we're not taking care of ourselves, if our cup's not full, if our oxygen mask isn't full, as Fiona was saying, then we can't help others. So just remember to put that on and keep going and ask for help. We're so used to thinking that we've got to do it all. Like if you're a failure if you can't do it all, and it's just not true. And that was probably the biggest lesson that I've learnt in the last 20 years as a practitioner is that I should have asked for help sooner. I was so bloody minded and thought I can do all of this, but actually we're all human and we all have zones of genius. As you've seen today, all these therapists, we've got so much to offer. Everything we do here, we've got so much to offer, and it's about finding people with their strengths, which will save us time and pay dividends in the end.
mhm,
Oh yeah.
mhm,
So thank you
mm.
so much to everybody. I don't think there's any more questions, but thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.